Before we begin, a word of warning. What you're about to hear isn't fiction. These are true stories, from those who lived to tell them, and from those who were never found. If you've ever stayed in a cabin alone, if you've ever felt watched through the trees, this episode is for you. And if you're drawn to the real darkness, the kind that creeps under your skin and makes you double-check your locks, go ahead and hit subscribe. And leave a comment after the video, if you still have the nerve to speak. Tonight on Dark Real Horror, we explore 7 true cabin horror stories, each more chilling than the last. But don't look away, because the final story is the most disturbing of them all. Turn off the lights, lock your doors, and whatever you do, watch until the end. Let the darkness in. I rented the cabin to forget what happened in Seattle. 3 months after Sarah's disappearance, the police had stopped calling. The case had gone cold. The case had gone cold. My therapist suggested a change of scenery to help process my grief. Pine Hollow, Montana. Population 347. No cell service. No neighbors for miles. Just me, the mountains, and enough silence to finally sleep without nightmares. That was the plan, anyway. I first saw him on day 3. Dawn had barely broken when something pulled me from sleep. That primal instinct of being watched. Through the frost-edged kitchen window, I spotted him. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a red flannel jacket against the October chill. He stood motionless at the tree line, 50 yards from the cabin, just watching. When I blinked, he was gone. I convinced myself it was a hunter. This was Montana, after all. But hunters move. Hunters don't stand perfectly still, staring at your bedroom window. On day 4, he returned. Same spot, same stillness, same flannel. This time, when I opened the door to confront him, the cold air carried only the scent of pine and the distant cry of an eagle. The tree line stood empty, but the frost-covered ground showed a single set of boot prints leading nowhere. By day 5, I'd installed the security camera I'd found in a closet. The battery-powered unit had a motion sensor and night vision, probably left by a previous renter worried about bears. That night, the temperature dropped below freezing. I added another log to the wood stove and fell asleep to the comforting crackle of burning pine. The camera's alert woke me at 3:17 a.m. The night vision footage showed my front porch, empty at first. Then, a hand entered the frame, placing something on the welcome mat before withdrawing. I waited until sunrise before opening the door. There, carefully centered on the mat, a small carved wooden fox. Beautiful craftsmanship, familiar somehow. Then I remembered. Sarah had been wearing a fox pendant when she disappeared. My hands trembled as I turned the carving over. Carved on the bottom in precise letters, "You look like her when you sleep." I called the local sheriff from the cabin's landline. Explained everything. The man, the carving, Sarah, probably just Erickson. Sheriff Wade Mills sighed. Harmless old woodcarver who lives deep in these woods. Been here since before the national forest was established. Boundary of his property gets confused sometimes. He watches me sleep, I said flatly. A long pause. I'll send Deputy Harris out today. Meanwhile, keep your doors locked. Deputy Harris never arrived. On day 7, the man in flannel stood 30 yards closer, just beyond the clearing, close enough to see his weathered face, the gray beard, the eyes that never blinked, close enough to see what hung from his belt, a silver badge catching the morning light. I packed frantically, throwing clothes into my suitcase, grabbing my laptop, my phone. As I loaded the car, I noticed something tucked under my windshield wiper, a Polaroid photograph. Me, asleep in the cabin's bed, taken through the window, written below, "She fought harder than you will." I peeled out of the gravel driveway, fishtailing onto the narrow forest road, desperate to reach the highway 20 miles south. The dense pines pressed in from both sides, branches scraping against my car like fingernails. 5 miles in, I rounded a blind curve and slammed my brakes. A police cruiser blocked the road. Pine Hollow Sheriff. Deputy Harris leaned against the hood. Young, smiling, waiting, leaving so soon? He called as I sat frozen behind the wheel. Uncle Erickson was hoping you'd stay longer. He's taken quite a shine to you. I reversed sharply, tires spinning on gravel, and careened back the way I'd come. My rearview mirror showed the cruiser pulling a U-turn to follow. Not speeding. Not rushing, just maintaining a steady pace, like they knew exactly where I was going. The cabin appeared ahead through the trees, my only shelter. I skidded into the yard, grabbed my phone from the passenger seat, and ran inside, double-locking the door behind me. No signal, of course. The landline rang, startling me so badly, I knocked over a lamp. I answered with shaking hands. "You should have checked the cabin's history before renting," a gravelly voice said without preamble. "This makes 3 of you now. All dark hair, all alone, all reminding me of her." I dropped the phone and ran to the bedroom, grabbing the fireplace poker on my way. Outside, tires crunched on gravel. A car door slammed. Footsteps on the porch. Unhurried, confident, I frantically searched for an escape route. The bedroom window was too small. The bathroom had no windows at all. The security camera, I'd forgotten it completely. I pulled up the footage on my laptop, scrolling backward through the previous nights. What I saw drained the blood from my face. Night after night. The man in flannel stood watching, sometimes for hours, sometimes approaching to press his face against my bedroom window. But worse were the images from inside the cabin. Him standing over my bed while I slept. Him going through my belongings. Him wearing my missing girlfriend's fox pendant. The most recent footage, from just 2 hours earlier, showed Sheriff Mills sitting at my kitchen table, drinking coffee from my mug while Deputy Harris stood laughing beside him. A key turned in the front door lock. On the laptop screen, a new notification appeared. An email sent automatically from the camera's cloud storage. The subject line, camera footage, uploaded to Seattle PD, GPS coordinates attached. A message I'd never set up. The cabin door swung open. Flannel Man stood silhouetted in the doorway, Sheriff Mills and Deputy Harris behind him. "You're the first to think of cameras," Flannel Man said quietly. "Sarah was clever too, but not clever enough." I erased the fireplace poker, backing against the wall. Sheriff Mills stepped forward, his expression changing from menacing to confused. "Ma'am, are you all right?" I swung the poker wildly. "Stay back. I've sent everything to Seattle PD." The men exchanged glances. "Seattle." Deputy Harris's radio crackled. He answered with a code I didn't understand. "Ma'am," Sheriff Mills said slowly, "we received a call from your doctor in Seattle. He's been trying to reach you. As you stopped taking your medication." "My medication?" "For the hallucinations. After your twin sister Sarah's suicide." The poker trembled in my grip as I glanced at the laptop screen. The footage now showed only empty rooms. No Flannel Man. No sheriff drinking coffee. And reflected in the bedroom window, a face identical to Sarah's, wearing her fox pendant. My face. "The good news," Flannel Man said gently, "is that the doctors think they can help you this time." As they led me outside, I noticed the wooden fox carving on the porch. The inscription now read, "You look like me when you sleep," in my own handwriting. The gravel crunched under my tires as I pulled up to the cabin, its weathered logs glowing faintly under a sagging moon. I'd rented it for a month, a remote hideout in the Smoky Mountains, far from deadlines and city noise. Just me, my laptop, and silence. I'm Claire, a freelance writer, 34, craving a reset after a brutal year. The air hit me first, pine sharp, laced with damp earth, but something sour lingered like meat gone bad. I shook it off, holding my bags inside. The door creaked, heavy, and the cabin swallowed me in a hush, broken only by the faint drip-drip of a leaky faucet. I dropped my duffel on the warped floorboards, dust swirling in the lamplight. The place was sparse. A sagging couch, a wood stove, a single bulb flickering like it was on its last breath. My boots echoed as I explored, the cold seeping through my soles. In the bedroom, under a loose floorboard, I found them. 3 leather-bound journals, edges frayed, pages yellowed. Curiosity tugged me down onto the creaking bed, the springs groaning. The first page was dated 2 years ago, inked in a jagged scrawl. "They're watching." Always outside, my pulse ticked up. Just some nutcase, I told myself. But my eyes flicked to the window, black, empty yet heavy with unseen weight. The writing belonged to Amos, the previous tenant. His entry started normal. Hunting trips, whiskey nights, then spiraled. Footsteps circled the cabin at 3 a.m. crunching leaves, too heavy for deer. My fingers tightened on the page. They tapped the windows. Slow, deliberate. I see their shadows, long and wrong. His words grew frantic. E shot at them last night. Missed. They laughed. Low, wet, like choking. The final entry, undated, was a smear of ink. They're inside now. My throat closed up. I shoved the journals under the pillow. But the silence screamed louder. A sharp crack split the quiet. Outside, like a branch snapping under weight. I froze, breath shallow, ears straining. The wind, maybe, but then it came again. Crunch, crunch, slow, circling the cabin. My heart slammed against my ribs. I grabbed my flashlight, its beam trembling across the walls, and crept to the window. Nothing but pines swaying, their shadows clawing the ground. The tap-tap hit the glass. Deliberate, like a knuckle-rapping bone. I stumbled back, the floorboards creaking too loud. My pulse a roar in my skull. I called the rental agent, Marla, next morning, voice shaky. "Who was Amos?" I demanded. She paused. "Too long. Lived there a year. Left sudden. Odd guy, kept to himself." Her tone was clipped, like she was hiding something. "Did he hurt anyone?" I pressed, clutching the phone. Police checked. "No record? You okay out there?" She sounded nervous now. "Fine." I lied, hanging up. The journals burned in my mind. I read more. Amos wrote of them. Neighbors he swore were stalking him, sabotaging his traps, poisoning his water. They want my land, my peace. I'll end them first. His paranoia was a fever, but the noises he described, those footsteps, those taps, matched what I'd heard. My skin crawled. I checked the locks, the windows, finding scratches on the frames, deep and fresh. That night, the crunch returned. Closer, heavier. I gripped a kitchen knife, its handle slick with sweat, and peered through a crack in the curtains. A shadow shifted, tall, hunched, edging the tree line. My breath hitched. It moved, deliberate, and a low chuckle drifted through the dark. Wet, guttural, like Amos wrote. I dialed 911, whispering. Someone's outside, but static hissed back. The line dead. The tap-tap hammered the door now, rattling the hinges. I backed against the wall, knife raised. The cabin's air thick with that sour rot. Dawn broke, gray and heavy. I found footprints outside, boot treads circling tight, leading to a shed I hadn't checked. Its door hung ajar. The lock snapped. Inside, the stench hit. Blood and decay. A deer carcass hung from a beam, gutted, but beside it, a duffel spilled tools. Rope, duct tape, a stained hunting knife. My stomach lurched. Amos' scrawl flashed in my head. They're inside now. Was he the hunter, or the hunted? I called Marla again, voice cracking. There's a bag in the shed. Knives, rope. What the hell happened here? Stay calm, she stammered. I'll send someone. But her words felt hollow, rehearsed. I couldn't wait. I packed to leave, heart pounding, when the crunch returned. Daylight be damned. A man stepped from the trees. Late 40s, gaunt, with a beard like steel wool and eyes that burned too bright. He wore a flannel shirt, mud-caked boots matching the prints. "You found Amos' stuff," he said, voice low, a smile twitching. He was troubled. "Who are you?" I choked, gripping the knife behind my back. "Eli, neighbor." He stepped closer, boots grinding gravel. "Amos thought we were out to get him. Paranoid. Violent. Had to protect ourselves." My blood ran cold. "Protect how?" His smile widened, teeth glinting. "It is on now, but you're digging, ain't ya?" His hand slid to his belt. A blade's handle peeked out. I bolted inside, slamming the door, barricading it with a chair. Footsteps circled. Crunch, crunch, then a thud against the wall. "You can't stay here," he called, voice calm but laced with venom. The windows rattled, glass groaning under pressure. I grabbed Amos' journals, my phone, and dialed 911 again. Still dead. A shadow loomed at the window, Eli's silhouette stretching long and warped. My breath came in gasps, the knife shaking in my fist. The door buckled, crack, splinters flying. Eli kicked it in, his blade gleaming. "You should have left," he growled, lunging. I swung the knife, slicing his arm. Blood sprayed, hot and slick. He roared, staggering, and I ran, crashing through the back door into the woods. Branches clawed my face, my lungs burning as his boots pounded behind me. A siren wailed, distant, then close. Headlights cut the dusk, and Eli's steps faltered, fading into the trees. Cops found me shivering, bloodied. They searched the shed, the cabin. Eli was gone, but the duffel held more. Photos of Amos, his truck, and me, snapped days ago. Local feud, they called it. Eli and his kin wanted Amos' land, drove him mad, then silenced him. Me, I was collateral, poking wounds I'd buried. I moved to the city, locked tight behind steel doors. But last week a journal arrived, no sender. Amos's scrawl filled it, but one page was new. They're still watching. You're next. Last night, my window rattled. Tap, tap, and a shadow slid past. Too tall, too wrong. I clutched the knife, breath fogging, knowing Eli's out there, his grudge alive, circling closer. The blizzard hit without warning. One moment, the Vermont wilderness was a pristine canvas of white and gray. The next, a howling maelstrom that swallowed everything. My grandfather's hunting cabin stood like a lone sentinel against the storm. Solar panels useless, generator buried under 3 feet of snow. One battery-powered radio, my only connection to the outside world. I'd come here to escape, to finish my true crime podcast research on the Burlington serial killer case. Isolation was the point. I just didn't expect the isolation to become a trap. The radio crackled to life at 7:43 p.m. Emergency broadcast. Static laden voice cutting through the wind's constant moan. Attention residents of Addison County. Attention residents of Addison County. Armed fugitive Michael Reese has escaped from Vermont State Correctional Facility. Considered extremely dangerous. Last seen near. More static. Then silence. I'd read Reese's case file. Former military. Discharged after psychological evaluation deemed him unstable. Convicted of murdering 3 hikers in 2018. Methodical. Calculated. The kind of killer who planned every move. The kind who might seek shelter during a blizzard. The cabin's windows were like blank white screens. No visibility. No movement. Just endless snow and darkness. I checked the doors. Double locked. Windows secured. Firewood stacked. The cabin seemed larger inside than it should be. Shadows stretched in impossible directions. My grandfather's old hunting trophies, deer heads, mounted on walls, seemed to watch with glassy eyes. Last known location, a fragment of information, then silence. I moved the radio closer to the fireplace, hoping for better reception. The flames cast dancing shadows across the walls, transforming mounted deer heads into something more alive. A soft thump outside, like something heavy falling against the cabin's wooden walls. My podcast research wasn't just about the Burlington serial killer. It was personal. Michael Reese had murdered a family friend, a wilderness guide who'd helped my father years ago. The case haunted my family for decades. I wasn't just researching. I was hunting my own answers. Another thump. Closer this time. I grabbed the hunting rifle mounted above the fireplace, checked the chamber. Loaded. My grandfather's voice echoed in my memory. Always be prepared. The wilderness doesn't care about your intentions. The radio burst to life again. A fragment of a news report. Reese's military background suggests advanced tracking and survival skills. Considered armed and static consumed the rest. Footprints appeared in the snow outside the window. Large. Boot prints. Military issue. They approached the cabin, then stopped. Directly outside my window. I held my breath, watched the condensation on the glass, waited for movement. The engine's sputtering cough was the first omen. Anna glanced at the dashboard, heart sinking, then back at the winding, empty mountain road dissolving into twilight, 10, maybe 15 miles from the rented cabin, her sanctuary for a week of solo retreat. The engine gave a final rattling gasp and died. Silence, thick and immediate, rushed in, punctuated only by the frantic, tinny click of the hazard lights. She tried the ignition. Nothing. Dead as stone. Frustration gave way to a cold prickle of unease. Outside, the dense pine forest crowded the narrow road. shadows deepening into impenetrable blackness. She checked her phone. No service. No, predictable, yet terrifying. Miles from anywhere, night falling like a shroud, utterly cut off. The allure of solitude evaporated, replaced by raw vulnerability. Walking seemed insane. Which way? How far? The woods felt vast, watchful. Woo. Headlights sliced the gloom, approaching slowly. Relief warred with ingrained caution. An old, battered pickup truck, its engine a low, uneven rumble, pulled alongside. The window squealed down, revealing an older man, face a road map of wrinkles, eyes sharp beneath a worn cap. He began whistling softly, a simple, slightly off-key tune that seemed oddly familiar. "Car trouble?" he asked, voice raspy but projecting warmth. Anna nodded. "Completely died. Alternator, maybe. Happens," he shrugged. "Rough roads. Headed to a rental, I bet?" He seemed to know the area's sparse traffic. "Yes." "The Miller place. Up on Ridge Road." He nodded again, whistling, pausing momentarily. "Know it. Still a good 5 miles walk. Tell you what." He opened his door. "My place is just up this track." He gestured towards a barely visible dirt path. "Got a landline. Call for help. Wait somewhere warm. Name's Silas." He seemed harmless enough. An offer of warmth and a phone call was hard to refuse. "Okay, Silas. Thank you. I'm Anna." "I'm Anna." As she got in, she vaguely remembered seeing his truck parked outside the gas station back in town. The last place she'd stopped for directions to the Miller cabin. Had he overheard her? The truck's cab smelled of oil, damp earth, and something else. Stale coffee. The drive up the track was rough, branches scraping the windows like skeletal fingers. Silas resumed his soft, repetitive whistling between questions. "Saw you back at the gas station," he confirmed casually, answering her unspoken question. "Asking about the Miller place. Not often folks rent it out alone. Brave. Just needed quiet," Anna murmured, unnerved by his admission. "Oh, it's quiet," he chuckled, the sound lacking warmth. "Folks out here mind their business. Sheriff barely comes up this far unless he has to." He winked. "Good neighbors." Silas' cabin was nestled deep, almost swallowed by the woods. Rough logs, thin smoke curling from the chimney. Inside, dim light flickered from a bare bulb in the wood stove, casting long, dancing shadows. The air was thick with wood smoke, but laced with that sharp chemical undertone. Bleach, definitely. Clutter was everywhere. Tools, yellowed newspapers, jars. And near the stove, Anna noticed dark, scrubbed-looking stains on the rough floorboards, stark against the wood grain. "Phone's here." Silas pointed to an ancient rotary model. He picked it up, listened. "Ah, dang. Still out from that storm. Figures." He hung it up with finality. "Sorry about that." Anna's anxiety ratcheted higher. "No escape road obvious. Thanks anyway, Silas. Maybe I should just wait in my car." "Nonsense." His voice was suddenly sharp, before softening again. "Pitch black. Things moving out there. Unsafe. Sit, warm up. I'll make coffee." He moved towards the stove. Warm. Alone for a moment, Anna scanned the room, her eyes adjusting, drawn to the morbid clutter on a shelf. Not driver's licenses, but something worse. A man's worn leather wallet, slightly open, revealing the corner of a faded photo. A smiling couple, young children. Below it, pinned to the wall, the single earrings and the jars, clear now in the firelight, containing not teeth, but preserved insects, and nestled amongst them in one jar, unmistakably, a glass eye. Her breath hitched. She noticed a heavy bolted trapdoor, nearly hidden under a ragged rug in the corner. Concealment. Silas returned, his whistling momentarily ceasing. "Place needs tidying," he mumbled, following her gaze. He handed her a mug. The heat felt wrong in her trembling hands. "Folks lose things out here," he said conversationally. "Get turned around, panic, These woods, they don't like disrespect. He settled into his chair, eyes locking onto hers, like those hikers last fall. City folks thought they knew better. He tapped his fingers rhythmically on the armrest. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Never found them. Not all of them. Anyway, his voice held a possessive, almost proprietary tone when he spoke of the woods, and those lost within them. "Why did you come out here alone, Anna?" he asked again, the false friendliness gone, replaced by a cold curiosity. "Pretty girl like you, no signal, no one to check in with." He gestured vaguely. "Anything happens. Could be days, weeks even. I need air." Anna gasped, standing suddenly, knocking the mug. Hot liquid splashed, unnoticed. "I should check the car." "No, I can't let you do that," Silas said, rising smoothly, blocking the door. His whistling started again, low and chillingly calm. "Wouldn't be neighborly." Her eyes darted frantically, and then she saw it, tucked behind a stack of firewood near the door. A small, distinctive blue backpack, identical to the one pictured on the missing hiker poster for Sarah Jenkins she'd seen at the gas station. His backpack. Terror gave her strength. "Bathroom?" She choked out. He nodded slowly, eyes glinting, gesturing to the back. Inside, the small window was boarded over. She heard his whistling outside the flimsy door. No escape there. She gripped the heaviest thing she could find, a small cast-iron skillet left by the sink. Taking a deep breath, she threw the door open and swung the skillet with all her might as she lunged past him. He grunted, deflecting the blow with a surprising quickness, the skillet clanging uselessly against the doorframe. He grabbed her wrist, his grip crushing. Anna screamed, kicking and twisting, adrenaline afire in her veins. She broke free, stumbling towards the main cabin door, Silas right behind her. No longer whistling, just breathing heavily, she burst out into the freezing night, plunging into the woods, the cabin door slamming shut behind her like the ceiling of a tomb. Branches tore at her. Unseen roots tripped her, but she scrambled up, fueled by sheer terror. Behind her, Silas followed, moving through the trees with an unnerving familiarity, his heavy footsteps a steady, relentless rhythm, gaining on her ragged gasps. She risked a glance back. He was closer, a dark shape detaching itself from the trees. She stumbled, falling hard. Scrambling, she grabbed a thick, fallen branch, swinging it wildly as he closed in. He blocked it contemptuously with his forearm, grabbed the branch and wrenched it from her grasp with insulting ease, tossing it aside. He stepped forward, pinning her with his shadow, just as despair threatened to swallow her. A sound, incredibly faint, cut through the night, the distant, rising and falling cry of a siren. Miles away, maybe, but real. Maybe, but real. Hope flared, fragile and desperate. Silas heard it too. He paused, head tilted. Then he looked down at Anna, pinned beneath him, helpless. A slow, chilling smile spread across his face, erasing any trace of the friendly local. The whistling started again, soft and low, as his shadow completely enveloped her. The siren sound seemed to fade, lost under the vast, indifferent canopy of Silas's woods. I rented the cabin to get away from it all. After nearly 2 years of non-stop deadlines, endless meetings, and the creeping exhaustion of city life, I desperately needed silence. Nestled deep in the dense pine forests of Vermont, this little place had seemed like the perfect refuge. Isolated, quiet, forgotten by the world. On the surface, the cabin was exactly as advertised. Rustic, secluded, charmingly weathered, but I learned quickly that appearances could be dangerously deceptive. It started small, subtle enough that at first, I convinced myself it was just my imagination. One morning, I noticed a chair pulled slightly away from the kitchen table, not where I'd left it. Another day, my keys, always on the wooden hook by the door, turned up on the coffee table instead. Each time I brushed it off as carelessness, but soon, the feeling changed. Little things escalated into undeniable strangeness. One night, I awoke abruptly, convinced I'd heard a soft clicking sound, rhythmic and mechanical. As I strained my ears, lying perfectly still, I imagined whispered breathing. The sound was faint, almost inaudible beneath the creaks and groans of the old cabin settling. But it lingered just long enough to make my pulse quicken. Afterward, sleep became nearly impossible. I lay awake, staring into shadows, my ears tuned obsessively to every snap of branches or rustle of leaves. I decided to test my suspicions. Before leaving for a supply run into town, I arranged my belongings meticulously. A notebook angled precisely on the desk, pillows stacked neatly, coffee mug placed exactly in the center of the table. When I returned hours later, my stomach tightened painfully. The notebook had shifted slightly. Pages fluttered open. The mug was now positioned near the table's edge, leaving a faint coffee ring behind. I wasn't alone. The hair on my neck prickled. Someone had been inside the cabin while I was gone. I searched frantically, checking windows and locks. Nothing was broken. Nothing missing. Who would break in just to rearrange furniture? My fear turned obsessive. I began spending hours checking every nook, every shadow, every corner. That's when I noticed a tiny glint above the bedroom mirror, barely noticeable, the size of a pencil tip. Heart racing, I dragged a chair over, climbing to peer closer. A tiny circular lens stared silently back. My blood turned to ice. A hidden camera nestled discreetly inside the wood paneling. Suddenly, I understood the whispered breathing in the night, the meticulous adjustments to my belongings. Someone had been watching my every move, patiently, silently. Who put it there? The landlord, a previous tenant. My mind raced, suspicion spiraling. I tore the cabin apart, discovering another camera hidden carefully above the kitchen cabinets, another embedded discreetly near the ceiling fan. They were everywhere, eyes unblinking, perfectly hidden, unless you knew exactly where to look. My breath quickened, panic bubbling up. How long had they been watching? How much had they seen? Shaking, I dialed the landlord's number. His voice was gruff, mildly annoyed. "You found what? Cameras?" I said breathlessly. "There are hidden cameras everywhere." Silence stretched painfully. Then finally he replied coldly. "I had no idea. The last tenant was unusual. Quiet, but there were problems. Police visited after he left. Something about harassment. I cleaned the place myself. Never found anything strange." "Who was he?" I demanded. "Name was Craig Becker," he said uneasily. "Moved out suddenly. Left no forwarding address. Honestly, he seemed like the type who preferred being invisible." Invisible. The word crawled up my spine. I spent the night pacing, barely able to sit still, eyes darting nervously toward the shadows in every corner. I couldn't shake the feeling that the cabin still held secrets, lingering presences watching patiently. I searched the name Craig Becker online and felt my blood run cold. There he was, staring grimly from a mugshot, arrested for stalking, breaking, and entering. Currently whereabouts unknown. My pulse thundered. Becker was still free. I knew I needed to leave immediately. But night had fallen thickly, darkness pressing against the windows like black velvet. I gathered my belongings frantically, fear crackling through every nerve, when a floorboard creaked sharply behind me. I spun around, heart hammering violently. A door at the far end of the hallway hung slightly open. One I was certain I'd locked moments before. Something moved quietly inside, a rustle like fabric brushing wood. "Hello?" My voice shook painfully. Silence answered, hands trembling. I took a cautious step closer. Shadows danced through the thin crack of the doorway. Gritting my teeth, I pushed the door open wide. The room was empty, air heavy with dust. Yet, at the back wall, partially hidden behind an old wardrobe, I noticed faint scratches etched into the wood paneling. My breath caught. Carefully, I moved the wardrobe aside, revealing a hidden trapdoor, edges worn smooth by frequent use. It creaked softly as I lifted it, exposing a cramped, dark crawl space beneath the cabin. My stomach churned violently. I shone my phone flashlight downward, revealing empty food wrappers, an old sleeping bag, dirty clothes, and photographs. Dozens of candid snapshots, scattered carelessly. Pictures of me sleeping, cooking, even showering. Panic surged violently. Someone had been living beneath my feet, watching constantly. Suddenly, outside, gravel crunched beneath heavy footsteps approaching the cabin. Every muscle seized. Terror strangled my voice as I quickly replaced the wardrobe, hiding all evidence. Then, I backed into the darkest corner of the room, desperately silent. A shadow passed by the window, tall, broad-shouldered, obscured beneath a hood. The front door creaked open slowly. My breath caught painfully in my throat. Footsteps moved confidently through the living room, pausing briefly. The intruder knew exactly where to step, avoiding the squeaky boards. He moved closer, pausing just inches from my hiding spot, breathing heavily. Slow, measured breaths. My heart felt ready to explode. Finally, in a burst of desperate courage, I lunged forward, shoving past him toward the door. He spun quickly, grabbing at me, but adrenaline made me fast. I sprinted toward my car, feet slipping on gravel, chest heaving. I drove straight to the police, never looking back. They searched the cabin thoroughly. Craig Becker had already vanished, leaving behind only traces of his hidden life beneath my floorboards, his cameras now dark. Police uncovered old tapes, dozens of victims before me, quietly observed, silently terrorized. Becker had never stopped, just moved quietly from one secluded rental to another, hidden by the anonymity of solitude. Weeks later, safely back in the city, I received an unmarked envelope in the mail. Inside, a single photograph, taken from the woods surrounding the cabin, capturing me as I drove away that night. Written neatly on the back, a single sentence. See you soon. Now, every shadow in my apartment feels alive. Every dark corner whispers threats. Because I know wherever he is, Craig Becker is patient. He waits and watches. And someday, when I least expect it, he'll finish what he started. The storm hit just as we uncorked the third bottle of wine. What was supposed to be a reunion weekend. 5 college friends celebrating 10 years post-graduation in a secluded Adirondack cabin turned into something else entirely when Jenna slammed her glass down and said, I need to tell you why I really asked. You all here. Outside, the blizzard howled. Inside, the firelight flickered across her face as she pulled a yellowed newspaper clipping from her purse. The headline made my stomach drop. Local student vanishes after frat party. We all knew that case. Sophie Whitaker, freshman year, never found. Jenna's hands shook as she smoothed the clipping. Because one of you knows what happened to her. The cabin was perfect. Rustic chic, surrounded by dense forest, miles from cell service. The kind of place designed for nostalgia and confessions. Mark built a fire while Liam passed around beers. Emily and I unpacked groceries, laughing about how little we'd all changed. Jenna lingered near the windows, watching the tree line. You okay? I asked. She forced a smile, just admiring the view. Day 2, the blizzard arrived at dusk. Wind rattled the windows. The power flickered, then died. We played cards by lantern light. Jenna kept staring at each of us, her gaze lingering too long on Liam. So, she finally said, who thinks Sophie's body is still out there? Silence. Mark choked on his whiskey. Jesus, Jenna. Why bring that up? Jenna laid the clipping on the table. Sophie's smiling face stared up at us. Because she was last seen leaving your frat party, Liam. Liam stiffened. She left with someone. Liam stiffened. No one knows who. Jenna's fingers tapped the article. But you never told the police about the fight you two had that night. The lantern flickered. Shadows deepened. Day 3 morning brought no reprieve. The storm raged. The cabin grew colder. Emily found the first note tucked in her coat pocket. Liar. Then Mark found one in his boot. You let it happen. Liam refused to check his things. By noon, Jenna was missing. We searched the cabin, shouting her name. Then Liam froze in the bathroom doorway. Blood streaked the mirror, smeared into 3 letters. Run. Day 4, we barricaded the doors. Played dumb games to avoid sleep. Jenna's phone, left charging in the kitchen, buzzed at 3:17 a.m. I unlocked it. Photos. Dozens. Surveillance shots of each of us over the past year. Notes. Timelines. A folder labeled Sophie's friends. A list of every person at that party. And a voicemail from an unknown number. They don't remember. Make them remember. Liam grabbed the phone. This isn't Jenna's voice. Static erupted from the radio. A woman's whisper cut through. You were supposed to protect me. Sophie's voice. Day 5, Emily found the trapdoor in the basement. Old newspapers. Sophie's missing poster. A single pearl earring. Liam backed away. That's not possible. I gave that back to. Footsteps creaked above us. Jenna stood at the top of the stairs, holding a knife. Except it wasn't Jenna. The resemblance was uncanny. Same hair, same smile, but the eyes were wrong. Darker, wilder. My name's Clara, she said. Sophie's sister. Liam paled. You were the last to see her alive, Clara whispered. All of you. The radio crackled again. They know. And then the lights went out. Rescuers found me half frozen on the road 2 days later. The cabin was empty. No signs of struggle. No bodies. Just 5 sets of footprints leading into the woods. And a 6th set, smaller, trailing after them. The police called it a tragedy. A group of friends lost to hypothermia. But I know the truth. Clara waited 10 years to finish Sophie's story. And now she's writing ours. This cabin isn't for reunions. It's for confessions. And some secrets don't stay buried. They hunt. I found the first toy 3 days after moving in. A small plastic soldier buried beneath the living room floorboards. The kind that comes in packs of 50. Green, frozen mid-charge. One arm missing. It shouldn't have bothered me. Old houses collect fragments of their former occupants like islands catching debris. But something about finding it there, carefully positioned in a hollowed-out space in the floor, joist rather than simply fallen through a crack, made my skin prickle. Pine Lake cabin seemed perfect when I signed the 6-month lease. Remote enough for the isolation I craved to finish my book. Affordable enough for a writer with dwindling savings. Quiet enough to escape the noise in my head after Emma left, taking our daughter Lily with her. The rental agency never mentioned the Blackwood family. Never explained why the weekly rate was so low for such a beautiful lakefront property. Never thought to disclose that 5 years earlier, an entire family had been methodically killed here, one by one, over a single night. I had learned that from Marjorie Henderson, the 70-something owner of Pine Lake's only general store, 3 miles down the mountain. That's the old Blackwood place, she'd said, eyeing me as I stocked up on groceries and light bulbs. Didn't think anyone would rent it again. When I asked why, her weathered face had creased with something between pity and suspicion. Google Pine Lake Massacre when you get home, she'd suggested. If you still want to stay there afterward, come back tomorrow. I'll tell you what the papers left out. I should have driven straight back to Boston that day. Instead, I searched the case that night, reading police reports and news articles by the glow of my laptop as wind howled through the pines surrounding the cabin. The Blackwoods. Father Raymond, Mother Karen, daughters Emily, 8, and Jessica, 4, had purchased the cabin as a weekend retreat. Their final weekend, in February 2018, ended with all 4 found dead. Raymond and Karen in their bed, Emily in the hallway, little Jessica hidden in a kitchen cabinet. The details were sparse in official accounts. Multiple knife wounds. No signs of forced entry. No murder weapon recovered. No suspects identified. Case status open. I'd told myself it didn't matter. Terrible things happen in unremarkable places all the time. I had 4 chapters of a psychological thriller to finish by month's end. The cabin's grisly history could provide inspiration. Then I found the soldier. Then the stain appeared on the kitchen floor. Then the cold spots began. They never recovered all the evidence, Marjorie told me the next day, pouring coffee into a chipped mug across her cluttered kitchen table. She'd invited me in when I returned, saying some stories weren't meant for public spaces. What do you mean? I asked, watching her arthritis-gnarled fingers wrap around her own mug. Police work isn't like your crime novels, Mr. Thorne. Things get missed, especially in small departments like ours. She sipped her coffee, eyes never leaving mine. Raymond Blackwood kept journals, documented his growing paranoia, thought someone was watching them, following them from the city. The police reports never mentioned journals, because they never found them. Her voice lowered. But I used to clean for the Blackwoods when they visited. Saw them myself, leather-bound, red. Raymond writing furiously every night. The image formed unbidden in my mind. A man hunched over a desk, scribbling desperately as shadows gathered outside. You think he knew what was coming? Marjorie's expression hardened. I think sometimes houses collect more than just dust, Mr. Thorne. Collect feelings, impressions, echoes. I don't believe in haunted houses, I said automatically. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Who said anything about ghosts? The stain on the kitchen floor grew larger each morning. A reddish-brown splotch that appeared precisely where little Jessica Blackwood had been found curled inside a cabinet. I scrubbed it daily. It always returned, spreading outward like a slow-blooming flower. I found the second toy, a tiny plastic dinosaur, under my mattress. The third, a headless doll, behind the bathroom mirror. The cold spots migrated through the cabin on a precise schedule. Living room from 3-4 p.m., kitchen from 7-8 p.m., main hallway from 11 p.m. midnight, master bedroom all through the night. So cold my breath fogged regardless of how high I set the thermostat. I told myself there were logical explanations. Old pipes, poor insulation, water damage beneath ancient floorboards, my own deteriorating mental state after months of isolation, insomnia, and writer's block. Then I found the gap behind the bookshelf, a space just large enough to slip my hand into. My fingers closed around something soft. Fabric. I pulled it out slowly. A child's mitten. Pink wool, monogrammed with a small J. Jessica's. The police had found her wearing only one mitten. The reports noted the other was missing. I should have left then, should have packed my laptop, and whatever dignity remained, and driven away from Pine Lake forever. Instead, I pulled the bookshelf completely away from the wall. The hidden door behind it was small, just 2 feet by 3 feet, carefully cut into the pine paneling and disguised with matching wood grain. Without the missing mitten, I would never have found it. Beyond the door, a crawl space. And within that small dark space, a red leather journal. The entries began normally enough. Raymond Blackwood, documenting their weekend getaways, fishing trips, building a treehouse with the girls, Karen's home improvements. Then the tone shifted. March 12, 2017. Notice the same car behind us again today. Third time this month. Karen says I'm being paranoid. April 30th, 2017. Someone's been in the cabin between visits. Nothing taken, but things moved slightly. Police say no signs of forced entry. Suggested animals or the wind. August 17th, 2017. Installed new locks. Security system. Girls don't understand why Daddy's so worried. The entries grew increasingly frantic. Descriptions of footprints found outside windows. Missing personal items later discovered arranged in strange patterns in the woods. The growing certainty that someone was watching them, studying them, learning their habits. The final entry, dated February 9th, 2018, the day before the murders. They don't just watch anymore. I heard them inside last night, moving between the walls, under the floors, collecting, recording, learning to be us. Karen doesn't believe me, says I need help, but I've seen their faces in town, behind store counters, at gas stations, wearing human expressions that don't quite fit. Tomorrow we're leaving for good. I've already packed the car. Just need to get through one more night. I closed the journal, hands trembling. Clearly Raymond Blackwood had suffered a psychotic break. Had he killed his family in his delusion? But then, who killed him? The sound of a car on the gravel driveway pulled me from these thoughts. Headlights swept across the living room wall as a vehicle pulled up outside. Marjorie's ancient pickup truck. She emerged carrying a large paper bag of groceries. Thought you might need supplies, she called as I opened the door. Storm's coming tonight. Might lose power. I let her in, strangely relieved to have another human presence in the cabin. She moved through the kitchen with familiar ease, putting items away without needing direction. Found anything interesting since we talked? She asked casually. The journal sat on my desk, visible from the kitchen. I hesitated. Just some toys, probably left by the family. Hey, yo. She nodded, her back to me as she arranged canned goods in a cupboard. Children leave pieces of themselves everywhere. Emily loved her little soldiers. Jessica carried that dinosaur everywhere. I froze. I hadn't mentioned the dinosaur. How did you know about? And Raymond, she continued, as if I hadn't spoken, always writing in those journals of his. Documenting everything. She turned, smiling. Useful habit for a writer like yourself. Cold realization washed over me. I never told you I was a writer. Her smile remained fixed, but something shifted behind her eyes, like a mask slipping just slightly. Didn't you? Memory plays tricks at my age. I glanced toward the front door. My car keys hung on a hook beside it, too far away. You knew the Blackwoods well, I said, trying to keep my voice steady as I edged toward the kitchen drawer, where I kept a large carving knife. Of course, I told you I cleaned for them. Of course, I told you I cleaned for them, but the police reports never mentioned a housekeeper. Her smile vanished. Some people are easy to overlook, Mr. Thorne. Easy to forget. Easy to replace. My hand closed around the knife handle. What happened to them, Marjorie? She sighed, suddenly looking every one of her 70-plus years. Raymond was right, you know, about being watched, about being studied. She moved with unexpected speed, slamming the drawer shut on my hand. Pain exploded through my fingers as she pressed her weight against it, trapping me. Communities need new blood sometimes, she whispered, her face inches from mine. New stories, new families. From outside came the sound of car doors closing, footsteps on the porch, multiple sets. Pine Lake is a special place, Marjorie continued. We've been here much longer than any of these buildings, than any of these names we've borrowed. The front door opened. The front door opened. 3 figures entered. The gas station attendant, the postal clerk, and the park ranger, all wearing pleasant, empty smiles that didn't reach their eyes. We watched the Blackwoods for months, Marjorie said, learning them. But Raymond noticed too soon. Started writing everything down. Understanding dawned with horrifying clarity. The toys, the stain, the cold spots, all carefully orchestrated. You've been gaslighting me, I whispered, making me think I was losing my mind. But why? Writers make excellent documentarians, she replied. And divorced fathers are easily replaced. No one looks too hard for them. Her smile widened unnaturally. Your daughter Lily will need a new daddy soon. We've already started learning how to be you. The ranger stepped forward, holding something that gleamed in the fading light. A knife, the missing murder weapon. Don't worry, Marjorie whispered, as the others moved closer. We've gotten much better at this since the Blackwoods. No one will ever find those journals, or you. As they closed in, I realized the true horror of Pine Lake. Not that a house could retain echoes of past crimes, but that the people around it were patiently, methodically creating new ones. And somewhere, in another town, someone was already learning how to be me. Still there? If your heart's still beating, congratulations. Not everyone makes it through these stories without glancing over their shoulder. But now, I want to hear from you. Which of the 7 stories haunted you the most? Have you ever stayed somewhere that just didn't feel empty? Leave a comment below. I read everyone. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, because on this channel, every week, we go darker. This was Dark Real Horroring, where real stories live, and some never leave. Until next time, stay out of the woods.